Hi everybody, this is Mike Rhodes. I know I've already met almost everybody, but for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Mike Rhodes and I am the new property manager for Heavener Acres Mobile Home Park. So in this video I want to go over a few things. Instead of having this conversation, which does take 30 to 45 minutes, instead of having it 50 times, I want to have it one time. And so I want to have this video to clarify any issues and answer a lot of the common questions. But before we get started, let me just say that there are a lot of resources out there, and we're going to be sending some of those out. If you have trouble with fixing up your home, there are resources to help you fix up your home. If you have trouble with substance abuse, there are places to help you get clean. If you need help, there are bulk pickups with the city once a month. So there's trash removal help, but that's just a little bit. Some people need a lot of trash removal, so you'll have to do that on your own or hire somebody. But if it's just one item per month to keep trash from piling up, the city does that as well. Also, there's housing assistance. So if these rules that are being implemented are too much for some people and they just can't afford to fix up their home, you are a homeowner, so you are responsible for the repairs on your own home. And if you can't afford it, if you absolutely 100% can't afford it, you could consider getting HUD and renting a place where the landlord's responsible for fixing up the place. And there are options. You're not stuck in your home. You could sell your home. There are people who are investors who will buy it and fix it up and rent it. The company that I work for, WV Rentals, they will actually buy it as well. They prefer you to stay and rent the lot, but if that's what you need to happen, they're happy to help you. Also, you could the home could be tore down, the home could be moved to a new lot, the home could be rented out. I mean, there's so many options. Don't feel like you're stuck. But that's also an option. There's also help out there for that as well with HUD. There are coalitions to end homelessness. There's housing assistance if there's any veterans in the park. I already mentioned the housing authority. There's home repair programs. And then there's a lot of contractors and handymen that we can point you towards. We can't recommend anybody. That's up to you. But we're creating a list of people who can do the work. So if you know anybody, definitely reach out to us so we can make this list a lot longer and make our resource list even better. And as I mentioned, the city does bulk pickup once a month. It is a little complicated the way they do it. They do the first Monday, the second Tuesday, the third Wednesday, the fourth Thursday, and the fourth Friday. But they do it once a month. So it's a little complicated, but the city's phone number is 304-636-1414. And then you'll have to go through their automated service. But ask them any questions about bulk pickup. So in this video, we're going to be going over the lease and we're going to be going over the rules and restrictions. Now, this, hopefully this isn't a negative thing. Hopefully it's positive, but we are going to go over the worst case scenario and, what happens if you break the rules. So don't take this as negative. It is what it is. It's the rules that I have to go by to do my job. And so if I don't follow these rules, I can get fired. So this is what I have to do. Some of these rules are from the fire marshal, some are from insurance companies, some are from the city of Elkins, and some are from the company that owns the property. So my job is to enforce the rules and help everybody. I'm not here to be against anybody. That's not my intention. My goal, and I think it's your goal too, is to bring the community up. Bring the standards up, to bring the whole quality of the community up so that everybody can be happy and proud to live there. Right now it has a little bit of a negative stigma to it, and so we're going to try to change that. We're going to get rid of the drugs slowly but surely. We're going to bring up the quality, and everybody, I just ask that you pitch in and then you help, and together we'll make this place an awesome place to live. Our goal is to make it a safe and clean neighborhood. Okay, let's get into it. So here is the lease that we're going to go over. Now, I want you to read it and understand it for yourself, and if you don't understand it, I want you to talk to someone who can explain it to you, be it a lawyer, a judge, a friend, whoever that may be that you trust and can understand it. I'm just going to go over the highlights to answer a lot of the questions that people have asked me and to hit on some of the highlights. This is just a courtesy, but like I said, read it all for yourself. I want you to understand it. Under the first item, under the lease, it says, no other persons will be allowed to inhabit the premises other than those so named on the lease. That means you can't invite a bunch of people to live with you. And it's not that we care what you do within your own home and we're trying to tell you what to do. It's that we're trying to clean up the neighborhood and we want to know who's in the park and who's not. People with kids who live next door want to know if there's any sex offenders living next door. People want to know if there's violent felons living next door, and that's fair. You're living in a community. We've got to respect our neighbors. Plus, we want to clean up. We want your help in we want your help to assist us to help clean up the neighborhood. We can't do that if we don't know who's in the park. Also, there's going to be some people that are going to have no trespassing orders against them who just won't be allowed in the park because they're thieves, they're on drugs, for whatever the reasons are. They're just troublemakers. So if you're inviting them into the park, then at that point we can't evict them or kick them out because you invited them into your home. So our only recourse then will be to evict you. So that's why we need to know who's in the park. And so if you want someone in the park, put it on your application, put it on the lease, and we'll get them approved or disapproved, and we'll know. Okay, number 2 is rent. Rent is due on the 1st of every month. There is a grace period for anyone who has Social Security, Medicare, or disability, and that's the 4th at 5 o'clock on the 4th. You have to have your rent paid by, and there'll be no late fee. If you pay on the 5th, there is a late fee of 10%, which is $25 minimum. So even if your lot rent's $237, your late fee is still $25. If you don't pay on the 5th, after the 5th, $5 a day additional late fees accrue. And then if you don't pay by the 15th, I have to go and file an eviction against you. At that point, you still have about a week before court that you could pay the rent, the late fees, and the court costs and get to stay. But my goodness, don't make me do the extra work. Don't pay the extra money yourself. Just save the money. Lot rent should be your first item. It's not a lot of money. I know a lot of people don't make a lot of money, but your lot rent should be your first bill you pay. It's your home. It's the roof over your head. That should be first. So make it to where you pay on or before the 1st, unless you're on Social Security or disability or Medicare. Then you have till the 4th. Of course, in May, it's $300, as you know, and then the deposit for the water meter, which we can work with if it causes a hardship on you. And then in June 1st and on, it's only $237 a month. And then number 4, it talks about the application. So the application you filled out has to be true and accurate. If you lie on that, it could violate and void the lease. Number 5 on the lease talks about insurance. Now, liability insurance is required for everybody. And if you're renting, that could be a renter's policy. If you own the home, it could be a homeowner's policy. It could just be a liability policy. Whatever you got to do, you got to have liability insurance to cover if somebody gets hurt in your own home or in your premises. So that's required for your home. Number 7. Of course, like I said, I'm skipping some of these. I still want you to read them. They're still important, but I'm just skipping to the highlights to answer most of the common questions. Number 7 is about default. And hopefully this comes as no surprise to anybody, but if you don't pay your rent, you don't get to stay. I mean, that's common sense, right? So the way it works is if you don't pay by the 15th, I have to go file eviction. I didn't make that rule up. That's something that the company has that I have to go by. So like I said, if you pay on the 1st, you're fine. There's no late fee. If you pay after that, you have to pay your rent and late fees. And if you don't pay by the 15th, then I have to file for eviction. Then you got to pay court cost. And we'll skip ahead. Number 9 talks about remedies. And it says that the leasee also agrees to keep the residence in a safe, clean, and sanitary condition. That's very important. And this is a big one that a lot of people asked about, and that's pets. So on the one hand, people love their pets. I understand that. On the other hand, people want to walk their kids through the neighborhood without worrying about a vicious dog or a pit bull or some sort of animal attacking their children, which they have the right to do that as well. So your pets have to be in your care and control at all times. If I had my way, I would say no pets, period, and it would make my job a lot easier. But obviously that's not practical. You own your own home, so you're allowed to have pets in your home. Now, with that being said, we are not going to allow any new pit bulls or any new vicious dogs at all. So don't bring them in. We're going to write down what pets you have, and if you have one already and it does not bite and it's nice and it's known to be a calm animal, then you can get pet insurance, liability insurance for your pet and keep them only because it's grandfathered in. Like I said, don't get any new pets. That won't be allowed. There are 7 types of vicious dogs that the insurance classifies, and those are pit bulls first, German shepherds, Rottweilers, Chows, Dobermans, Shar-Peis, and any wolf hybrid. Now, the management company, the ownership company, assume no liability for your pets, which means you're 100% liable for your pets, and they have to be in your care and control at all times. Now, what that means is, if you have a fence, they can't jump the fence. If they're out of the fence, they have to be on a leash in your care. You cannot let your animals run wild. Number 13, illegal activities. Now, this may surprise you, but you cannot commit any illegal activities. We're trying to clean up the park and make it safe. We don't want the cops in there every single day. We don't want there to be a need for the cops to show up ever. If the cops are in there every day, there's problems. And people are going to have to move out, and that's fine. So if you get arrested for drug abuse, for illegal activities, for felonies, then you violate the lease and you'll be asked to move. Now, let me say this. We're going to talk about this again later, but the company does have a zero tolerance policy for drugs, for domestic violence, and for stealing. That means 1 strike and you're out. So if you get arrested for drugs, you're out. We'll talk about that later on the rules and regulations, but that's where number 13 comes in and says you cannot commit any illegal activities. Number 14, the general conditions. That's saying that your place has to be clean on the inside and outside. This includes, back to the pets, no dog feces in the yard. When we were putting the water lines in, you would step through in dog crap on the outside of the yard, then you'd crawl under the mobile home to fix the water, and it'd smell like cats underneath. I mean, that doesn't work. That doesn't work for anybody. Some people have so much dog feces in their yard, the neighbors complain over the stench in the summer. So let's respect our neighbors. Let's work together to make it a clean place. If you want to have pets, then you got to clean up after them every day. Not a week later, not a day later. You got to clean up immediately. If you don't want to do that, if you want to have pit bulls and not pay vicious dog insurance, if you don't want to clean up after your pet, then get rid of your pet. Give it to someone who is more responsible and can handle the pet. Like I said, I know this is coming off harsh, but we've got to bring up the standards. We've got to respect each other to have a nice community. I think that's everybody's goal. When I was talking to people, 95 to 99% of people were on board with this and excited about these changes. So I know this may rub some people the wrong way, but once you realize this is better for everybody, I think you'll come around. Also, if you don't want to come around and you decide to move and you decide not to follow the rules, it's easier just to move. And you have a lot of options there. So if you hear these rules and you say, I'm not interested in doing that, and then you need to move, call me. No hard feelings. We'll work out a deal. There's a lot of things you can do to move. It doesn't have to be adversarial. We don't have to file eviction. You could sell your home. The company will actually buy your home to help you out. You could sell it to someone else. There's investors. We can even give you their names and phone numbers that they can buy your home. You could rent your home out to someone who will follow the rules. You could move your home to another lot. You know, there's a lot of options. You could tear your home down. Heck, you could abandon your home. There's a lot of things you can do. You're not stuck here. So we're saying if you don't want to follow the rules, then the best thing is to move. Obviously, we hope nobody moves. We hope everybody sees these rules, understands how great they are, how nice of a community this is going to be once everybody follows the rules, and everybody's on board, and you all work with me, and we all work together, and we do make this a nice neighborhood. So number 15 talks about rented land and what you're responsible for. So you're responsible for the mowing, the weed eating, keeping the premises clean and free of debris or vehicles that do not run. And You have to maintain a certain standard of living and quality of your home. Underpinning has to be done in a professional manner, and it has to be free of holes. Basically, we're trying to keep the cats and other animals, raccoons, skunks, cats, any animal out from under the mobile homes. Now, I know this stuff is expensive to do, so the first month we're going to worry more about the trash and the hazardous materials, as in broken windows, broken steps. We're going to worry about that. Eventually, we'll get to the underpinning. But you definitely got to get your underpinning cleaned up, fixed up, to where all these stray cats, all these skunks, all these raccoons can't be living under trailers. Number 16 talks about the first right of refusal, and the only reason I'm mentioning that here is the company told me to tell you that if you do have to move for one reason or another and you do want to sell your home, let them know, and they might be the one who buys it from you to make it easy on you. Number 20 talks about utilities, and all your utilities must be turned on. You can't be camping out in your trailer. You have to have all your utilities functioning. And number 23, I skipped several there that you can read. Number 23 talks about comprehension of document, which means make sure you understand it before you sign it. And I even listed in here chapter 37 of the state law, where it talks about trailers, mobile homes, manufactured, and modular homes. So if you want to look up the state law, there it is in the lease. So easy to do. And then there's a final page for the driver's licenses. And that's the entire lease. Like I said, this is worst case scenario. You know, hopefully nobody sees any issues with that. Hopefully everybody says, hey, those are great rules. That's the community we want to live in. Our goal is to attract people who want to live here and respect each other and have a safe, clean community. Okay, so next we're going to go on to the rules and regulations. Okay, now let's go over the rules and regulations, and some of these are redundant with the lease, but I'm going to go over them twice. They're that important. So if you hear me repeat myself, it's not on accident, it's on purpose. So number 1 talks about the company having a zero tolerance policy on a couple things. I mentioned them earlier: drug use, domestic violence, or theft. Zero tolerance policy. That means one strike and you're out. That means if you or anyone in your household gets arrested for drug possession, drug use, then you will be asked to leave. We're not going to worry about what happened 5 years ago or even last year. Everyone gets a fresh, clean slate right now, but from here on out, because we had a lot of grace in the past, there's going to be not a lot of mercy in the future, which means don't get arrested for drugs. Don't do drugs. You know what? Let me back up and say this. I have had a lot of family members, friends, loved ones actually die from drug overdose and stuff like that. It's horrible. I've seen a lot of good people flush their lives down the toilet because of drugs, and they're just not worth it. In the resource guide, we have resources to help you get clean. One of the numbers that I actually helped somebody with was 1-800 or 188 WV helps, and that's the first place to start. There's a lot of people out there waiting to help you get clean and sober if you're on drugs, or if you know someone on drugs, or if you have a family member on drugs. So my first hope is that you get clean, that everybody gets clean, that there are no drugs. Because I know right now there's a lot of drugs in the mobile home park, and we're going to clean that up. And I hope people get clean on their own, that we don't have to clean up the people. I hope the people clean up the drugs. Meaning, you get clean and sober. And I hope you use that. That's my number one hope. But if you choose not to get clean and you choose to use drugs, and we find out, especially by arrest, then you will be evicted, no questions asked, and no second chances. And that is a rule that comes from higher above me. So I can't even change that rule or have a second chance. Zero tolerance means zero tolerance. So you will be asked to leave, maybe move your home out of the park, or maybe just move yourself and sell your home, or whatever it is you got to do. But the point is, you will be evicted. And that goes for domestic violence too. I mean, we don't need a bunch of people screaming and fighting and abusing each other out in the streets or even in their homes. It's just, there's no reason for it. Also, theft. Theft, people work too hard to get the few things that they have in life for someone to come by and steal from them. It's not right, it's not fair, and it will not be tolerated. Personally, I cannot stand a thief. So don't steal anything. If you get arrested for stealing, you're out. We are going to put cameras up in a few months, and this way some of the people who are walking through the park that shouldn't even be in the park, if they reach in the back of trucks or steal something from the property, we'll catch them, have them arrested, and ban them from coming back to the park. And actually, we're going to talk about that, about the no trespassing order we're going to do. We're going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Also, speaking of drugs, if you have an excessive amount of traffic at your home, just know that you're not fooling anybody. And obviously people have get-togethers, but it's obvious when there's get-togethers commonly for drugs. So a lot of traffic will be assumed to mean drug activity. So don't be selling drugs, don't be doing drugs, get clean. If not, this isn't the place for you. If you're going to be the kind of person who can't get along in a community, then you probably should go live somewhere in the country, or just go somewhere where you're not living so close to others. Violation of privacy or public intoxication or illegal conduct will result in the eviction of a tenant from the park. And that's number 2. Number 3, if you threaten the health, safety, or welfare of other tenants, that's also a grounds for eviction. People should feel safe in their own home and in their own neighborhood. And if you cause someone else to not feel safe, then you shouldn't be there. Number 5, disturbing of the peace will not be allowed. Number 6, all mobile homes must have their lot number displayed on the end of their mobile home. Most people have it. If you do, that's great. Make sure it stays up. And if you don't have it, just put one up. If 911 is called and the fire department or the emergency squad or the police or anybody, some emergency service needs to find you, they need to be able to find you easily. Number 7, no open fires in the community. And I know this is one that some people don't like, but mobile homes actually burn up too easy. So no open fires in the community. We've also had reports of some people burning trash, burning plastic. It leaves a toxic, noxious smell, and it's not good for everyone else. Like I said, we need to respect each other in the neighborhood. Plus, it's in city limits, so I'm pretty sure there's a city ordinance against open burning as well. But even if there's not, there is a rule against it from the mobile home park. Also here, it's recommended that everyone has a fire extinguisher in their home. That's just something that's free advice that might save your home, might save your life. Quiet hours are between, number 8, quiet hours are between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. And what that means is no construction work, no loud noises, no loud music, no revving motors, nothing that disturbs the peace between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. A lot of people have jobs and they have to be up early, and it's not fair for people to be keeping up the whole community. Honestly, that kind of stuff you probably shouldn't do even during the day, the revving of the motors and the obnoxious behavior. Number 9 says, management reserves the right of access to all rented spaces outside of the home for the purpose of inspection and utility maintenance. Pools and trampolines are prohibited, and all other hazards must be eliminated. The reason for that is insurance companies, they said it's not that there's a lot of accidents on trampolines, but when there are accidents, they're very bad accidents. People get paralyzed, they break their necks, they die, concussions, brain injuries. It's really bad. And so there's a lot of liability with trampolines. So insurance companies don't allow trampolines. And so therefore we have to pass that rule on as well. Also pools, same thing. In order to have a pool, there's a lot of requirements. Super tall privacy fences, locked gates, all these things so that kids don't drown. That's the problem. Kids fall into pools and drown all the time, and it's sad. And we want to prevent that. Like I said, the goal is a safe and clean neighborhood. Number 14, tenants must carry liability insurance. We talked about that on the lease, so you already know that. Number 2, there's 8 categories to the rules. And number 2, it talks about property condition. Complying with fire and safety standards as well as insurance requirements, which means no hazards, no dangerous conditions, which includes, but it's not just limited to, weak decks, faulty stairs, unsturdy handrails, holes in your deck, your walkways, your ground, no holes where people can fall and get hurt, no slippery conditions, no broken windows, no sharp objects, no hazardous or flammable materials. So basically, like I said, safe and clean neighborhood. Make sure that the space around and under your home is kept neat and free from rubbish. That's number 4. Number 5, homes must be kept free of peeling paint, rust, holes, and painting must be kept up with. Number 6 talks about no storage of old refrigerators, no bottles, paint cans, trunks, propane cylinders. A lot of kids actually get stuck into these things and some of them die, and it's really sad. So none of that. Plus, we talked about in the resources that the city does a bulk pickup once a month, so put it out for that. They'll actually take that kind of thing. Number 7 says, each tenant will be liable for accidents, cleanliness, and disturbances on his or her rented space. So it's your space. Take ownership of it, make it nice, landscape it. Actually, one of the things we're going to do in a couple months, we're going to do Yard of the Month with cash bonuses. So start thinking about how you can landscape your home. Number 8, each tenant is responsible for any litter in his or her immediate area, and no unsightly conditions or clutter is permitted. And we already talked about this, but number 9 is dog feces must be cleaned up immediately. Cigarettes must not be thrown on the ground, use ashtray or receptacles, and they also must be cleaned up immediately. We just want a nice neighborhood, which I think everybody does. I think we're in agreement. Windows and doors must be in good working order and not broken. Number 12 talks about in the event of an untidy lawn, or the fact that if you don't mow it, which is also a city ordinance, and they will fine you and me, so we want to have lawns mowed. So in order to prevent that, we have to mow the lawn if you don't, but we will charge you, and to be honest, we will charge you more than what you can get it done for. So either mow it yourself or hire someone else to mow it, because mowing companies will do it cheaper. A management company, if they've got to do it, they're going to charge you way more. So let's both be happy, and you take care of mowing your own lawn. And of course, if we do it, it's more expensive and we have to bill for it. Number 14, this is something that hasn't been enforced before either, but only standard shades, blinds, or curtains or other normal window treatments are permitted. Things like insulation, towels, sheets, and blankets are not permitted, or plywood. You can't put that kind of stuff over your window. We want it to be nice and neat from the outside. And we'll skip ahead a few of them. Like I said, read all these. I recommend that. We're just hitting the highlights and a lot of the ones that people have asked me about. Firewood must be stacked neatly, and firewood must be stacked neatly and stored in an open and approved woodshed. Now that's a good question. So actually we'll go to this at the end. I'll give you a picture of what approved woodsheds and approved underpinning and approved outbuildings and approved fences look like. Number 20, storage units and carports must be factory built and approved before installing. So one of the things that people are kind of shocked at is we actually don't allow new storage units in metal because they rust and there's holes and people get cut, and then you need tetanus shots, and they actually look really bad pretty soon. Now, if you already have a metal building, that's okay, as long as you keep it painted and keep it free of rust and holes and dangerous conditions. But if you're going to get a new building, it has to be one of the approved buildings, which stay way nicer for way longer. Tenant is responsible for snow and ice removal of their sidewalks, driveways, patios, and decks. Now, one of the things that hasn't been done is a lot of snow removal. So obviously, as a management company, we are going to take care of snow removal, plow the snow, and they will plow the roads. Now, from the road to your sidewalk, to your porch, that's the tenant's responsibility as the homeowner. Okay, number 3, vehicles. All vehicles must be licensed and move under their own power. No broke down vehicles, illegal vehicles, up on blocks, things of that nature. That's actually a city ordinance too, and I talked to one of the inspectors, and they, for some reason, were really insistent on going down there and finding people for that. I asked them not to. I asked them to let me handle it and give you guys time to get everything squared away and legal before they start passing out fines. I would much rather you pay to improve your property and get things legal than for the city to come down and start fining you and taking your money. So hopefully that helps. I can't say what the city will or won't do, but that's actually a city ordinance. So make sure your vehicles are legal and they can move under their own power and they're not broke down. Definitely no vehicles up on blocks. If you have to work on your vehicle, you can't do it in the park. No major, little things you can. if you got to change your tire and put a spare on, that's no problem. But if you're going to rebuild your motor or tear out a transmission, a mobile home park is just not a garage. It's not the place for major overhauls. Plus, it leaves a lot of oil and grease all over the ground. It's just not good. A mobile home park is just not the place for a major repair on your vehicle. Speaking of that, don't drive on other people's yards. Don't tear up the grass. Don't cut through yards. The speed limit is 15 miles an hour. Please obey the speed limit. Don't speed. There's animals out there that you can run over, and more importantly, there's a lot of kids out there playing, and you don't want to hit a kid. You don't want to kill a kid. You don't want to put a kid in the hospital. I had a friend who actually was driving down a street in Buchanan, and a kid on rollerblades or roller skates came out between two cars. He had no way of seeing her, and he hit her. And she was okay. She went to the hospital, and I think she was in there for a little while, but the point of this story is it disturbed him. Like he was in depression for a few months. He felt so guilty. And even the cops, everybody said he did nothing wrong. There was no way to know she was going to come out. And she did, and he hit her with the car, and he felt horrible for months. And like I said, he was depressed and everything. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that to the kid. You don't want to do that to yourself. So just drive the speed limit. We're going to start fixing the potholes, and we just don't want a lot of people racing, or else we're going to have to put a lot of speed bumps up. And the faster people go, the more speed bumps we're going to put up. So let's just have some common sense. Drive 15 miles an hour out of respect for your neighbors and the kids and the animals in the community, and I thank you for that. So number 9. Oh wait, number 9 was speed limit. We just talked about that. Number 11. RVs, motorhomes, travel trailers, and any other type of trailer cannot be stored on the same lot as your mobile home lot. You're allowed one dwelling per lot. These are not huge lots. You cannot have 2 people living on one lot. That includes, like I said, RVs, mobile homes, travel trailers, but also tents, outbuildings. People cannot live in outbuildings. People cannot live in tents. If you have an RV or motorhome, rent another lot and put it on it, and let people live on that with utilities. Okay, number 4, pets. We talked about this during the lease, so I'll go over it quickly. If you have any kind of pet, you have to let us know so we can write them down. We don't want to go around and get all the stray animals and your pet be one of them and put them in the pound. We're not trying to do that, so give us a list of the animals that you have so that we can write them down. If you have a vicious dog, we'd rather you get rid of it. If you absolutely love it and it's known to be well behaved and trained, then you can get vicious dog insurance and keep it under your care and control at all times. And you're allowed to keep it, but no new pets, or no new vicious dogs especially. And as we talked about multiple times, animal crap must be cleaned up immediately. And noisy or unruly pets that cause complaints from neighbors or are scaring kids who walk by will be asked to be removed. They won't be allowed to remain. So make sure you have a well-behaved pet. Vicious dogs are not allowed on the property anytime for any reason, and that includes your friends' pets. Don't even let people visit you with these vicious dogs, because those vicious dogs that are visiting can still attack a kid who's just playing and innocent, who lives there, who has every right to be there. Okay, number 5. Now let's talk about landscaping. A lot of people have asked me about this, and in the front yard, well, first of all, let me say, we would rather have no fences. It just looks cleaner, neater. If everybody has nice mowed lawns, open, free of clutter, that looks the best. So we prefer no fences. Obviously, if you want a fence, you can have a fence, but you have to do an approved fence. For the front yard, it has to be a 3-rail vinyl fence for consistency and uniformity in the mobile home park. In the backyard, it has to be a 4-foot chain link fence with a top rail. That's important. Because if not, they get all sloppy and they lean and they look horrible. So it has to have a top rail and be a 4-foot chain link fence. For some people, they might need privacy, and if you want a privacy fence, let me know personally and we will get something in writing. Privacy fences have to be approved in writing and be of a specific kind. Grass. The city really is strict about grass being mowed, and there's other things that I told them we need to prioritize, like getting the trash cleaned up. I tried to talk some sense into them. They still insisted that grass must be kept at a low height. So make sure your grass is no more than 6 inches high, please. Make sure your grass is mowed. We talked about this in the lease. If for some reason you can't, let me know, and I will give you some numbers and phone numbers to people who do mow grass, and they can mow your grass for you and save you a bunch of money so that we don't have to come in and mow your grass for you and charge you. We talked about this in the lease as well, but all your utilities must be on. And as far as utilities go, don't tamper with community electric, water, or sewer in any way, because that could get you evicted, and that includes the water meters too. You can't mess with the water meters. That'll be considered stealing. It's stealing a utility, which is actually a crime, but also it's theft, which there's a zero tolerance policy for theft, as we talked about at the beginning. There's actually a fee if you do tamper with the water meter. There's a fee to order a new meter and put it back on, and you're responsible for any water usage at the time and any, how does this go? Tenant agrees that this estimate will account for all lost water during the time this is believed to have occurred. You don't want to do that. So just don't mess with the meters. And now we're on section 7 and number 2. This is important. Money that's paid will be allocated in the following order. Fines and fees first, utilities bills are second, and then the rest of the money will be counted toward your lot rent third. And also number 3 talks about parents. You're responsible for your kids and any damage caused by your children, or actually, you're also responsible for any of your guests. So if you invite someone to the mobile home park and they break someone's window, you're responsible as an owner of the mobile home park for that if the person does not pay for the damages. So be careful who you invite over. Only people who are on the lease can stay and reside in the residence. Like I said, we're not trying to tell you what to do in your home. We're not trying to tell you what to do. Our goal is to clean it up and make it a safe and clean neighborhood. And if we don't know who's there, we can't guarantee it's safe or clean. So if you do want new people to move in, you have to let us know prior to occupancy so we can get them approved or disapproved. And so you have to let us know, and don't just move them in and say, oh, by the way, here's their name and number, because they might not be approved. So you got to let us know beforehand. Number 5, if a resident allows someone to live with them or reside at their home who is a felon, a sex offender, has a no trespassing order against them, or anyone who was not approved to reside with them at the park, then the resident, which means you as the homeowner, will be subject to eviction. Number 6, anyone who causes a threat or poses a danger to any other person at the property at the mobile home park will be asked to leave. People have the right to live life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as the Constitution goes. They should be able to walk through their own neighborhood and not be afraid. So if you pose a threat, then you should not live there. Firearms and fireworks cannot be discharged in the park. If you want to set off fireworks, go see the city display, go to another property. Mobile homes, mobile home parks are just not the place for firearms or for fireworks. And number 8 talks about fines. And so we are going to offer, instructions on what needs done. We're not just going to show up. Our goal is not to fine people. Our goal is a safe and clean neighborhood that's kept up to standards. So we're going to give everybody fair opportunity to get everything cleaned up and up to standards and make it an amazing community. If people cannot or they refuse, then there'll be fines imposed to really enforce the rules. And at that point, if people can't, then excessive and extended violations of the rules, even with fines paid, subject you to eviction at the discretion of the management. Hopefully it doesn't come to that. Hopefully you are in agreement with me and you want to see your neighborhood look nice. You want to see your neighborhood safe. You want to see your neighborhood clean. Hopefully that's your goal too. If it is, work with me and let's make this neighborhood nice. If you don't agree with this, please call me personally. Like I said, no hard feelings, and we'll talk about your options on how to move. Because there is no option to stay and not follow the rules. You can either follow the rules and stay and help us make it a nice place, or you can leave. Those are your options. So, summed up, there's a few policies. Like I said, no pay, no stay, which means if you don't pay by the 15th, you get evicted and you can't stay. So just pay your rent on time, and that's not an issue. No play, no stay, which means if you don't play by the rules, you don't get to stay. You don't get to do what you want and disrespect everyone around you and disrespect all your neighbors and get to stay in a community. So just follow the rules and you have nothing to worry about there. Respect yourself, respect your neighbors, take good care of your home, keep your yard clean, keep your home clean. And you know, you don't have to be rich to have a clean place. You don't have to be rich to have a nice, neat, clean, organized place. That costs nothing. No drugs. Like I said, if you are on drugs, please get the help you need. I beg you, get the help you need. Don't flush a good life down the toilet because of drugs. If you refuse to do that, like I said, this is not the place for you. If you want to keep a habit, then you should find somewhere else to live. No domestic violence. Actually, no violence of any kind. No stealing. No unapproved. No vicious dogs. No unapproved pets. And no new vicious dogs especially. If you do get one approved, don't try to sneak in new vicious dogs. I mean, work with me here. Don't fight against me. I'm helping your community. You live there. I don't. But I'm here to help everybody. And as I went around and talked to people, I would say at least 95%, maybe 99% of people were super excited about what we're about to do and what we're implementing. And so many people want to see this come back to its former glory. And I don't know if a lot of you know this. Some people have lived in this park 30, 40 years, which is pretty impressive. But back in the 70s, this used to be an A-plus park. It was really, really nice from what everyone who knew it back then told me. And so our goal is to bring it back to its former glory. We're going to be doing a lot of work. We're going to be investing a lot of money as a company. They're going to be investing a ton of money into the park. So we need your help. We need your cooperation, and trust me, it's going to be worth it. Now, I'm not saying it'll be easy, but I am saying it'll be worth it. So let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to working with you to make this an amazing place. As you can see, these mobile home parks are all neat and clean with no trash laying around them. The grass is mowed, the landscaping is nice. Who wouldn't want to live in one of these communities? There's no junk cars. Everything is neat and clean and uniform. That's our goal. And here's a picture of an approved outbuilding for an example. And then here's a few pictures of approved woodsheds. It doesn't have to be complicated or fancy, just something simple with some sides, something to keep the wood safe and neat and clean.